Hey, good morning. How you all doing? So far, so good? How many of you came in this morning? Uh-oh, that means you came in last night, right? It's amazing to see you all here this morning then. Look, let me just begin. What you represent is something pretty special in America because you represent the front lines of what government is truly all about. See, government has just a couple real basic functions. At the federal level, we're here, number one, is to defend our nation. Second of all, we take care of those that can't take care of themselves, the very young, the very old. And we provide a quality education for our children because they truly are our future. But when we talk about defending our country, we also talk about defending our country and taking care of people, providing the services that otherwise wouldn't be there, things that we can't do on our own. You know, every 2 years we have changes at the federal level in our House and in our Senate. We have a remake-up in terms of the numbers of Republicans and Democrats and independents. But throughout this entire process, what people really care about is how it impacts them on a daily basis in their daily lives. Something that in America we take for granted are the services that are provided. At the municipal level, you're talking about clean water, you're talking about sanitation, you're talking about police protection, you're talking about fire protection, you're talking about responding to people at a time of great need. That's what government's about. Even now, as you'll see at the federal level and sometimes at the state level, you'll see some dysfunction occasionally. You'll see disagreement. You'll see arguments going on. There is no question about the need for the continued taking care of people that literally are in need. And that's where you come in because you're at the tip of the spear in that respect. On a day-to-day basis, you provide that direct service that people equate with good government. So let me begin by just saying thank you for what you do. And I do not come here lightly. I come here to say thank you because you really and truly do make a difference on a daily basis. Now let me talk a little bit about what's going on in Washington, D.C. for a second. And that changes based upon the 30-second news cycle that we seem to be in right now, the 24-hour-a-day message that comes on out of there. It's good that you're here because you bring a little bit of common sense to a city that is lacking in common sense in many, many ways. I've only been here 2 years, but what I found is that I work with some really good people, really decent human beings, the kind of people you'd like to have for next door neighbors, but they are working in a system which is truly dysfunctional. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'm going to tell you the reason why it's so important that you be here. See, I think everything kind of evolves around money, okay? Where the money's going, where the money's at. We're $20 trillion in debt. How many of your states or your local municipalities can operate where every single year you're running a deficit and everybody seems to think it's normal? We can't continue to do that here, and yet you say, well, why aren't you doing something about it? Why isn't Congress doing something about it? Why is it that why a president wouldn't step right in and just say, we're going to fix it right now? Part of it's a system, and I'm going to go back, Senator Dave Perdue out of Georgia and I have been talking, and I think he's done some great work on it. He's a freshman like me, where we came in 2014. Let me just lay out very briefly what's popping, and then we'll kind of have a discussion about it. If everything works perfectly in our budget process in Washington, D.C., if it works perfectly, there are 12 separate appropriation bills. Each of those 12 separate appropriation bills has to be passed by the House and the Senate and signed by the President. And if that happens, then we have done what is supposedly our duty. The problem is that has happened 4 times in 42 years. Now, after 4 times in 42 years, don't you think somebody would be talking about trying to fix the system? No. Instead, what we talk about is, well, we just do this great big bill at the end of the year. You know, it's an omnibus bill because that way it's easy. And what happens is you'll get the bill on a Tuesday morning and you'll vote on it on Thursday. The last one was 2,009 pages long and we spent $1.1 trillion. You didn't get a chance to read it beforehand and you read bits and pieces of it, The problem is that each separate subcommittee chairman that goes through the appropriations process can add or subtract in their area before it gets to you. That in itself doesn't work very well. But now let me go on one step farther, because this to me is the most important part, and it affects you. Even if all 12 appropriation bills were put together and passed through, how much money did I say we spent? $1.1 trillion. I thought we were spending at the federal level about $3.9 trillion. Wonder where the rest of it came from. See, the rest of it's not voted on. It's on autopilot. It's mandatory payments on mandatory programs. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Now you notice I'm not calling them entitlements because they're not all entitlements. Social Security is part of the safety net. Medicare is part of the safety net. Medicaid is part of the safety net. They're all important. But who's managing it? If you don't vote on it, and if nobody's responsible for voting on it, who takes the time to say whether or not it's being done correctly? And yet for 42 years, this has continued to move on. This is wrong. So what I'm suggesting to you is this. When you come to Washington, D.C., you bring a sense of common sense. You bring in and you ask specific requests. What you're doing is you're bringing us back to ground zero again about what's working right and what's not. You are valuable. And if you don't bring your message to Washington, somebody else will bring it for you. Which would you rather have? Somebody else sending your message, or you personally going in, sitting down and saying, look, there's some things here we got to talk about. There's some things here that we got to make changes on. Every time somebody from outside Washington comes in and lets folks know in Washington that there really are people outside of Washington, D.C. that understand that we've got problems here and that you really do want us to take the extra steps to solve them, it helps us. That's the reason why you're here. And we got a whole lot more in common as Americans than we'll ever have disagreement on. But sometimes those disagreements get in the way of finding common ground. I'm going to come back down to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. If you manage it, I'm convinced we can make each and every one of them better. Social Security right now is due to go broke in the year 2033. Medicaid probably sometime around the year 2023. If you don't manage them, and if you just get closer to a crisis situation, you have fewer options in terms of trying to actually fix it. So as you talk about, and I was just in the green room and I was hearing the discussion, you're talking about your health care. We have to fix the current Affordable Care Act because it unfortunately is not affordable. The concept in it eroded the competition, and it eroded our ability to actually provide high quality care from different options where people competed for it. That's our goal. But in doing so, we're going to have to take a look at how we deliver health care more competitively. And what we really want is to put as many people as possible into the types of group insurance coverages that you have. So you bring an important part of the message about what makes your group insurance healthy and affordable. So please, when you step in, know that you can be a part of the solution for health care as you deliver your message to members of Congress. And they truly do care. But in many cases, they're stuck in a system which is truly dysfunctional as well. And so they want to fix it, but they've got a lot of work ahead of them in order to get it done. Let me end with this. Don't quit on us. Don't quit coming back. As I said earlier, there are some really good, hardworking people here on both sides of the aisle. And even though on a daily basis we get hit with a barrage of questions about different things that are unique to America, or whether or not, we've got something in the news today about what's going on, and we've got a transition right now from one administration to another administration. I just came back from a trip in which we went to over 9 different countries, and they are amazed at America. They look at us and they wonder and marvel at the fact that we can disagree with each other without killing one another. They look, well, most of the time anyway. They look at us and they marvel at the amount of strength of the American economy. They look at America and they see the strength of the services that are being provided. And they would give anything to be like us. So my message to you is number one, thank the good Lord for the country we've got, but also make a commitment that what you want to do is to make it even better than what it is today. That unites us, because the next generation, they're not going to have the America that we've got if we don't preserve it for them and make it better. And I think that really does unite us, that stepping, that desire to make it even better for the next generation. That's something that unites us all, Republicans, Democrats, Independents. We all want a better future for the next generation than we had ourselves. So today, I'm going to say it again. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. Please, you bring a huge amount of good information to a Washington, D.C. that truly is, at this time, dysfunctional. But you can make it better. Don't give up on us. And together, we truly can make America even better than what it is today. President Trump said, and for the first time I think that I've ever seen a presidential discussion in a joint address, he didn't just talk about what was happening this year and next year. 2 years ago when I was here and I talked to this group, I said, what are we talking about when it comes to our 250th anniversary of the country? What are we talking about in 10 years? What do we want to leave for the next generation? I was really happy to see this president step forward and say, let's seriously discuss where our country's going to be in 10 years. Let's do the long-range planning now. Let's look big picture. You guys get that. You've seen it because you've got kids and grandkids coming along, and that's what you want to do. So finally, we're starting here in Washington, I think, to talk about big picture stuff. You can help us do that. Don't give up on us. Thank you for being here. Get involved, stay involved, and we appreciate your support and your sacrifice for the rest of us. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks so much. We're with you.